Hello, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable season previews. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and we are running through the NHL teams. We're almost at the end of them, about 10-ish to go, and we've got to the Philadelphia Flyers, and I've got Philadelphia Flyers writer Justin Giampietro from the Hockey Writers, obviously. Justin, how's it going as the season gets rolling here?
I'm great. Excited for the season. You know, I'm a fan of the new direction of the team. There really hasn't been an official rebuild in a
Mhm.
long time, and I think a lot of people appreciate that there's some clarity with that. And it might not go well, but I'm excited to see, how it goes.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Flyers, they were a pretty good team for a while there, and then finally kind of saying we're going to rebuild now. We're gonna start getting there, and they hired a new GM, Danny Briere, who seems to be doing the right things, making the right trades so far. We'll see what other things he's got up his sleeve, but his first transaction was a pretty good one, up until now. So we'll see what else he has, but this season is going to be an interesting one. We'll see how they do. Didn't really make a lot of changes in the offseason. Got a really good draft pick by finishing really low, and got a guy that could potentially have been a first overall pick if his KHL stuff wasn't, that type of stuff wasn't happening. But definitely good to get him at so high in the draft, and we'll see how that plays out. But let's get into this season because he won't be here to start. But Matt Michkov is probably one of the best prospects in the NHL. We did have him, Logan, our prospect expert, had him in the top 5 in overall prospects in the top 100. So lots of excitement for this guy. But like I said, won't be this season. It won't be next season. Probably won't be until the season after that. So it'll be a while before we get to see him in the NHL. But I'm sure we're excited for when that does happen, hopefully. But let's get into this season and start with the offense. And I said not many changes at all. They added Garnet Hathaway, so we'll talk about him for a sec. Coming from the Boston Bruins previously, before that, hopefully they were trying to get him to maybe win a cup with them, but didn't happen. Ended up getting kicked in the first round. So what do you think Hathaway will bring to the Philadelphia Flyers this season?
Well, I think just in general, I think it's important that they get somebody that can be a staple to the fourth line. Last year, they didn't really have that. They had Delorier. He played a lot, but other than that, they had McEwen, they had Sedlak, they had Patrick Brown, they had everybody there. Hathaway should be there the whole year, barring an injury. He can play penalty kill. He had 13 even strength goals last year, so he can at least provide some offense if he's given an opportunity. And he's a good defensive player too.
Yeah, he is. He's been really good for the teams he's been on. Like, I know him from the Calgary Flames because that's where he did all the damage against the Canucks for a number of years. But he was with the Washington Capitals before that. Was really effective. I mean, he had one season where he had 14 goals. So, he can score when given the opportunity. It's just he's not known for that. But yeah, I think he'll bring a lot to that bottom six. I don't know if he'll push any needle to playoffs or anything like that, but he'll actually end up being a pretty tough fourth line because Delorier is still there and projected on cap friendly Ryan Poehling centering them, but we'll see how that plays out in training camp. But overall, what do you think about this forward group? They've got a few guys coming back. I mean, Sean Couturier, injury problems, that guy. He's just been injured so much and looks like he's going to be playing this season. We'll see how many games he gets in. But a lot of guys still coming, like Cam Atkinson still here. You got Scott Lawton, big guys like that, Travis Konechny, Owen Tippett. I mean, they've got some pieces. It's just how many of them are going to be still here at the end of the season? Do you have any storylines you're kind of watching for this forward group?
I think the biggest one is Couturier and how he plays after missing about a year and a half of worth of games. Um, he can be a Selke Trophy level player. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if he's going to be that again, um, but he looks good in training camp so far. If he's healthy, he's probably going to be the first line center on this team.
Yeah.
So he will provide a lot of offense. They didn't really have a first line center. Without him, I mean, they had Morgan Frost, they had Noah Cates, Kevin Hayes was on the wing a lot of the time, but getting Couturier back is really big for them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this a little later about who could potentially take over the captaincy, who's been vacant since Claude Giroux left. But you got Couturier is definitely the leader on the team. I mean, he's 30 years old. You'd hope that he can still provide some offense. That 7.75 million cap hit until 2030. I mean, you're hoping that he can stay healthy and start providing some offense that he's expected to. So yeah, he's going to be a big part of this team moving forward. That's for sure. And like you said, the young guys that are behind him, Morgan Frost, you're hoping that he could establish himself as that second line center or hopefully a first line center. He's only 24, and same with Noah Cates, 24. I mean, these guys aren't old, so hopefully they can start kind of moving in that direction moving forward. So, and I mean, this season too, they may get a chance at getting a top pick in the 2024 draft, which may provide a good first line center. Macklin Celebrini is there, so you never know, right? So we'll see. All right, defense. Now the defense is a little bit of a work in progress, I would say. I mean, they're led by some older guys. You got Rasmus Ristolainen, who I don't understand why they signed him again. I mean, that big contract's massive. What do you think about this defensive core going into the season?
Well, as you said, it's a work in progress. I don't think it'll be great right away. I think they're experimenting with it. In training camp, uh, Tortorella said that Stahl might not play. That was another addition.
Mhm.
Mark Stahl might not play the whole year. They might sub in and sub out some guys. There are some good young guys like Emil Andre, um, Yeager Zamula. But overall, there are some young guys and there are also some veterans. Tortorella said that he's picturing a younger defense, even though there are a lot of older guys. So that could mean that they experiment as the year goes on. But overall, just judging off of that last season, it wasn't great. Um, it could be better, but I don't expect it to be by much.
No, I mean they're not. I mean, Travis Sanheim is still pretty good at defenseman. 6.25, been in 6.25 million on cap hit again is big. But he's a guy that has been in trade rumors before. I don't know if he's going to end up being traded because that extension I believe just kicked in, right? The 6 million.
Mhm.
So it's something that you're hoping that he can maybe live up to that 6 million this season and start being that leader on defense because you got a bunch of not a bunch of veterans, but they do got a few, and you're hoping Cam York will actually take a next step as well this season too. So you got some pieces, like you said, it's going to be a young defense, but I'm hoping Emil Andre can make that too because I really like him as a defenseman. So hopefully we see some progression on this core for this season for sure. All right, moving to the goaltending, and they still have a young starter in Carter Hart. I mean, it seems like he's been in the league for like 10 years, but he really hasn't. Uh, he is only 25 years old, like I said, and under a really good cap hit, 3.9 for a starter, that's pretty good. What do you think about this tandem, which could change because you got Cal Petersen in there as well, who's under a big cap hit of 5 million. What do you foresee this tandem being this season?
Well, right now, Carter Hart, definitely the starter, arguably the best player on the team.
Yeah.
He had a very good season last year. He had a not so great one a couple years ago. He was better the year before last year, and then last year he's finally started to settle in. Um, I'm confident in him. I think he can be a legitimately great goaltender, potentially top 10, top 15 in the league. So I'm not really worried about him. The backups are very interesting.
Mm.
Cal Petersen acquired to just offload his contract from Los Angeles. I don't think that Coach Tortorella will let him get in the way of some of the younger guys to play. But if he's good, he'll play. If he's not, then I think we could see Sam Urson, who played, I'm pretty sure, in 10 games last year. He was 6-3. He was pretty good when he was in the net. he could legitimately be a starter sometime in the future. But for now, he's a very good backup. And even Felix Sandstrom, he could be a backup. He wasn't terrific last year. The year before that, he was pretty good. So we'll see, who they go with. I think they'll give everyone a chance. Um, I don't think there will be a full-time backup. I think they'll just experiment with that.
Yeah, like you said, there's some young guys behind Hart, and Petersen. He's going to have to prove that he can be at least a decent backup, because, like you said, he was more of a cap dump. It's not like, I don't know what plans they've got for him moving forward. I mean, that $5 million. I mean, not like the Flyers are really close to the cap, but that's a lot of money to be paying a backup that's not going to play very much. So you're hoping that he may provide a bit more than that, but they got some good depth behind them, and they just drafted Carson Bjarnason this past draft too, who has the potential of being a starter in the future, but that's way down the road. But yeah, this goaltending is going to be interesting, not beyond Carter Hart, because we all know he's going to be the starter, like you said. So this backup situation is going to be interesting to watch, that's for sure. Okay, now this is probably an easy question because this division is so stacked. I don't think the Flyers have much of a chance, even though they had a really good start to the season last season. I think a lot of people were unexpectedly maybe surprised that they were good for the beginning, but then they kind of fell off. Where do they place in this division? Are they the basement, or you think that they're a little bit higher than that?
I really can't deny they're probably in the basement. I think they're definitely improved from last year. But also a lot of other teams improved, like even Columbus. They got a lot better. They were struggling with injuries. I don't think it'll be as bad as it was last year. Um, Defensively, I think they're probably safely in the bottom. Goaltending wise, I think they're pretty good, and that's probably their biggest strength. Um, you compare Hart to some of the other guys in that division, he's up there. But offensively, I think it's iffy. They could be like a middle of the road team offensively, but more likely they're probably towards the bottom in that division because you have so many stars in that division. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've often said the Metro is just a gauntlet. I mean, how are you going to get through these teams? And like you said, Columbus has gotten better. I don't know if gotten better, but they're going to be healthier, which is a big thing. And adding Adam Fantilli, who looked really good in rookie camp, and we'll see how he does in the preseason. But yeah, there's some good teams, really good teams, and then they've got some improving teams too. So unfortunately, I think the Flyers are probably in the bottom, and we're going to see a high draft pick coming up again, which is not a bad thing since they are rebuilding, right? All right, moving on to our quick fire round, and these are all fun questions I like to do, and a few of these have been made into articles at thehockeywriters.com, so you can take a look at those. But let's start with a couple breakout stars, one or two that you kind of are seeing that could potentially have a really big season this year.
All right, so number one, and my by far number one, Tyson Forrester, and I'm going to go with if he plays Andre.
Yeah, I like the Emil Andre one. Like I said, I hope he has a big season too, or he emerges as that big, really good defenseman in the NHL. All right, a bounce back player that, I mean, there's quite a few of these guys, I think, especially when there's a team that finishes so low. But who do you got as the guy that needs to bounce back?
They're going to need Travis Sanheim to be better than what he was last year.
Yeah, that's a big one, especially with that big contract kicking in. That's so we have the biggest one of the team, right? And then of course Couturier, if he's healthy, you're hoping that he bounces back into what he was before. All right, an X factor. This doesn't have to be a player; it can be just a situation or coach or whatever. What do you got?
Well, I'm going to go with a player, Cam Atkinson. He missed all last year. He was pretty good in 21-22, so I'm excited to see what he can bring.
Yeah, he was really good in Columbus, and like you said, really good in his first bit there with Philadelphia after signing in free agency. So yeah, that's a big one. All right, a rookie or a prospect that could surprise this season, make the team. You're not expecting to.
I already said Andre, so I'm going to go with Zamula. I think he could legitimately make the team for a decent bid. He could play a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. He had played 14 games last season. So yeah, I could end up having a bigger role, like you said about Tortorella wanting a younger defense. So he'd be part of that for sure. All right, a prospect to watch this season. Doesn't have to have a chance of making the NHL, but I mean, I know everyone's gonna be watching what happens with Matvei Michkov for sure. But who else do you got that everyone should be watching this season?
Um, I'm gonna go with Cutter Gauthier. This is gonna be his last season in college, and then I think he's probably gonna go over to the Flyers maybe this season, late in the year, maybe next year. But I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I love Cutter Gauthier. He's been since his draft year. He's been on my radar too. So he has the potential of being a very good top line guy, and we'll see how fast that happens. But yeah, definitely watch him this season because that big season he could end up being in Philadelphia at the end of the season too, for those whatever the 9 games that they choose to see where he goes. But yeah, that's a good one. All right, this could be easy and could be difficult. I don't know. Who is going to lead the team in scoring at forward and defense?
Konechny's done it 3 out of the last 4 years, so I'm gonna say it's gonna be 4 out of the last 5. And on defense, I'm gonna say Cam York.
Yeah, defense could be interesting to see who gets there, but Cam York, if he has a good season, that's really good for the Flyers moving forward too, because that means he's starting to emerge as the guy that everyone wants to see, right? So yeah, that's a good one. All right, there could be a few of these. One player that could be traded before the deadline.
I don't think there's a way that Nick Seeler finishes the year with Philadelphia. If he has the year that he had last year, then Flyers could get something good for him.
Yeah, and then of course all the other veterans that could potentially be on that as well. I mean, yeah, it's gonna. I think the Flyers are gonna be another team to watch at the deadline, like they were this past season. But we'll see who's on the move. All right, last one, and this one I always love because it's fun. Bold predictions are fun. So, well, you got a bold prediction or a hot take for this season?
That the Flyers they'll finish outside the bottom 10 in the league.
It's a bold prediction since we're thinking that he's going to end up being
Yeah.
in that bottom 10. But yeah, if things fall into place, they could actually be better than everyone's thinking because they do have some talent. I mean, if some players, like you say, break out or have better seasons, you may see something. So yeah, that's definitely a bold prediction though, because everyone's kind of anticipating them to be in that bottom 10. All right, Justin, thanks for coming on the season preview show for the Flyers. Like we said, it's going to be interesting to watch this team and may not be fun to watch them because they're going to be probably losing a lot of the time, but always good to follow the young guys and how they progress and who surprises. There's always storylines to watch, even with the bad teams in the NHL. So, but before we leave here, give everyone your social media and where everyone can find your stuff here.
I do a lot of work on the Hockey Writers. Justin Giampietro. I'm pumping out a lot of content. I try to. And yeah.
All right. Yeah, you usually have at least 1 or 2 articles a day. It seems like because I'm editing one at least every morning. So there you go. Definitely check out all his work at thehockeywriters.com. I believe you're one of the only Flyers writers. You may actually be the only one now. So any Flyers coverage, it'll be Justin. So make sure you're following him on the site and give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Check out all of our season previews that we have released at this point in preseason. We're getting to the end, like I said at the beginning. So keep following us because we got lots of preview stuff coming out. We got the preseason kicking off. A lot of teams already, I believe tonight, already have the Melbourne, Australia, the Global Series already in the book. So hockey's going. We're up there. We're getting there. So keep following us, and until next time, we'll see you on another episode of the Hockey Writers Roundtable.